Welcome to another edition of Head On here on Shaw TV, delving into the issues that really matter here in the Nanaimo region, central Vancouver Island as well. And we're going to discuss some issues regarding Nanaimo's economy. A lot of exciting news happening around the airport. Also, likely a hotel coming at the conference center as well. What about a passenger-only ferry between Nanaimo and Vancouver? It's kind of in the works here. A lot of things going on behind the scenes, and a perfect man to break it all down for us is Sasha Angus, the CEO of the Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Sasha.
Thanks, Ian. Pleasure.
It's been a really good run here. Last couple of years, it seems. A lot of things really generating economic-wise here around Nanaimo, and the unemployment rate really sticks out, doesn't it? 4.2% is the latest reading from the federal government Stats Canada. Somewhat misleading in a sense, but there is a lot to that in terms of that low rate, isn't there, Sasha?
There is, and I think it's been a consistent trend downwards, which is something that we'd like to see. What we've also seen is an increase in our participation rate. So that's the number of people in our community that are working compared to the overall population. That's back up over where we saw 5 years ago. So it is encouraging. You're right, there's a number of different aspects to it. There's not one particular industry that is causing all of this growth. We're seeing reasonable growth across a host of different sectors. And so encouraging and a trend that we want to see continue.
And in terms of building on that and getting some higher paying jobs is something I'm sure is also a focus as well, isn't it, Sasha? That's something where Nanaimo does lag behind the provincial average in terms of the average income.
Yeah, and that's where in economic development, household sustaining jobs are really what we're trying to accomplish. And so one of the I guess one of the encouraging pieces was over the last 6 months to 9 months, one of the sectors where we saw the best growth was in what they call professional, scientific, and technical services. Mm-hmm. So those are sort of knowledge-based jobs. They tend to pay better than the average. The average sort of median job in the technology sector is around $65,000 a year, which is about I guess a whole household's worth of demand in our local economic terms. And so whenever we can create more jobs in those sectors, provide more economic opportunities for our citizens, we're going to have better retail environments, we're going to have better housing environments. It's going to be good for the entire economy.
Right. Innovation Island has worked on that. The lifestyle entrepreneur, it's a big thing in the Parksville-Qualicum Beach region. People that can work anywhere in the world, but it's such a desirable place here on the east side of Vancouver Island. I'm sure that's a focus. It kind of fits in with what you're saying there, Sasha.
Absolutely, and we're very fortunate to work hand in glove with Innovation Island on a number of different efforts to really stimulate the technology sector in the greater Nanaimo region. And so whenever we look at it, it's sort of a 1-2 punch, which is we need to have the numbers and be, from a business perspective, a competitive place to do business. But the ace up our sleeve is the quality of life. And you're right, in the technology sector, when you can develop these technologies anywhere, having both of those is a real advantage.
Another big development locally here is this hotel at the conference center, SSS Manhao, out of China, a travel agency there, a $50 million hotel proposal, 17 stories, Force Diamond quality hotel, 197 rooms. You know a lot about this file. You've been working on it for several months now. Just let our viewers know a little bit about what this is about. There's some of the renderings shown for our viewers right now that you sent along to us. A very impressive looking building. What is this all about, Sasha?
It is, and they put a lot of effort into making sure that the building, the aesthetic of the building is something that would sort of, I guess, really speak to our harbor front as a community. And so the picture of the building is supposed to be the bow of a ship. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for us to not only create new capacity from a tourism perspective, but to welcome a number of new visitors. So they're looking at around 70,000 people a year once the hotel is built. And we've been working with them. They're looking at actually doing a scaled version of their tour starting in September. So it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of our local tourism partners and stakeholders to welcome new Chinese visitors, as well as our retailers in Nanaimo as well.
It's really going to change the scope of downtown Nanaimo, isn't it? Having a real focal structure downtown to tie in with all the improvements along the waterfront over the past several years. It really is, as Susan Allen from the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce, a game changer for downtown. Do you see it that way?
That's probably an accurate description. When we look at 70,000 visitors a year, that's just over 220 a day. And so whenever you add that sort of stimulus to a local economy, folks coming in and spending their hard-earned dollars, it's a wonderful addition for our retailers, for our restaurants. And so we're going to be working with the Chamber, as well as the Downtown Business Association and Central Vancouver Island Literacy to make sure that we can we can offer programming to our local retailers to say, when you have a Chinese visitor, here are here's some rudimentary Mandarin for you, but also here are the sort of things that you need to concern yourself with, customs and the ways of doing business that the Chinese visitors are used to. So we think it'll be a win-win for our local retailers as well as the tourism community as well.
This is in the process of being approved by Nanaimo City Councillors. Just explain the impact. You say 220 visitors a day, 70,000 a year. Is this a downtown Nanaimo or Nanaimo impact economically, or is there a bit more of a regional impact here, Sasha?
I think there'll be a regional impact, and one of the things in our tourism leadership committee's strategic plan that was rolled out earlier this year was talking about how we do create regional experiences. And so we had members of their logistics team in a couple months back and showed them everything that the region has to offer. We sometimes take for granted the wonderful outdoors and the beautiful vistas that we enjoy, and that's something that a Chinese traveler absolutely loves. And so there's going to be lots of opportunities for our local tourism operators to tie into the programming and to look at opportunities to have regional tours for the new visitors when they come. Speaking
of tourism, the Nanaimo Airport. This is something that you believe will bring some more tourists and also help migrant workers that work in Alberta, with WestJet Encore announcing flights direct starting June 24th between Nanaimo and Calgary. This is big with the extended runway and also the improvements to the terminal building. It's taken a little while, but it looks like finally there's some things happening at Nanaimo Airport beyond just regional destinations. Calgary to Nanaimo, that's pretty big. That's big news, isn't it, Sasha?
It is, yeah. So when you use the word game changer, that's probably also a pretty accurate description of the new flight for WestJet. And Mike and Sandra and the team at the airport have done an incredible job of landing that new connection. When you look at it not only from a tourism perspective, but from a real estate perspective and a business development perspective, it's an incredible new asset for the community. Since it's been announced, we were looking at doing a mission out on the inaugural flight, but unfortunately Calgary was experiencing obviously some pretty traumatic flooding. And so we'll be looking at going there probably in the second week of September to do that. But the number of businesses that have come up to us and said, we do significant business with Calgary, either as a customer or a financial center. It's a wonderful opportunity for our local businesses to do even better business and bring new dollars into our community.
I was talking to an official from WestJet. This whole Nanaimo-Calgary connection is part of a 2-year process of research on various smaller destinations in Canada, which is what WestJet moving towards now. So they've obviously done their homework. They're confident in the region. We've talked a couple times in the past, Sasha, and just speak to just how important it is that this is successful to draw further business to the Nanaimo Airport. If this doesn't go well, that's that's not going to go unnoticed from WestJet and obviously other air carriers.
Yeah, no, and absolutely WestJet did their homework, and again, the team at the airport have done a remarkable job in putting the business case forward. There were a lot of communities that were fighting for these new regional routes, and so for us to support it as a community, all the anecdotal evidence that we're hearing so far is that the airplanes are coming in full, they're leaving full, which is fantastic. We want to make sure that we continue to drive traffic for WestJet in that regard. Whenever you have these direct flights, they're like real currency in economic development, new investments, new visitors. It's a wonderful opportunity for Nanaimo and the region.
From an investment perspective, what is the linkage there between flights between Nanaimo and Calgary? How does that benefit Nanaimo economically, having that service in place?
Sure. And so we're already seeing a number of inquiries coming out of the Calgary market. Whenever you look at venture capitalists or folks that want to make investments in communities, they want to be able to get to your community easily. And so anytime you have to take a couple of bounces to get somewhere, the likelihood that they would make those investments suffers. And so those direct flights to financial centers and into business centers like Calgary, incredibly important for a community like ours.
Mike Hooper from the airport telling me that about 5 years down the line, maybe some sun destinations, Mexico and other destinations like that. What kind of, obviously it's great for vacationers. Does that really mean a lot of value in terms of what Nanaimo Airport can serve for mid-Vancouver Islanders?
It does, yeah, and no, there's opportunities, and we saw it. There's other jurisdictions where you've had flights down to south, places like Los Angeles and other places, and so there is always economic opportunities when you have these sorts of connections. For our tourism community, they're all significant assets to have folks to be able to come directly to Nanaimo, and for the business community as well. When you look at them, we look at how we can leverage these relationships and build on the base that tourism may offer for visitors.
It's been about 7 years since we've had passenger-only service between downtown Nanaimo and also downtown Vancouver. That would be a huge economic boon to Nanaimo as well. There's a lot of people that work on the mainland that live in Nanaimo, and I'm sure more so if that service came in place. What's the update on that file, Sasha? I know you've been working on that.
Sure, we've been working hard at work for it for about 6 months now. There's a proponent that we've been dealing with. We're getting closer, which is encouraging. It is a wonderful, would be a wonderful new asset for the community as well. For our business, Nanaimo business community to be able to get to Vancouver and back in a day is incredibly important, to not have to have downtime. Incredibly important, as well as the opportunity, as you said, housing prices in the Lower Mainland are significantly higher than ours. And so our ability to attract folks from the Lower Mainland to be able to commute for about an hour on the ferry versus an hour and a half in traffic, I think is going to be, over the long term, a very attractive option as well.
I'm not sure how much information you're going to reveal on this proponent that you've been working on for the past 6 months, but where is the interest level there on potentially setting up this service here between Nanaimo and Vancouver, Sasha?
It's extremely high. So it's we're getting hopefully down to the final strokes. It's not something that we can unfortunately talk a lot about because we have to respect their privacy and respect their investment. But it's something that we've been working very hard at the last 6 months, and we're hoping that we'll have good news soon.
That would be huge for Nanaimo. You look at BC ferry rates and how high they are, and people will certainly pay more for that convenience to get between downtown Nanaimo and Vancouver. They're increasingly, at least anecdotally, in my opinion, seems to be more of a market for that kind of a service.
Well, and that's one of the things since the last service was provided. You've had increases in ferry fares, which obviously will drive more traffic to this sort of service. You've also had the Canada line go right down to the harbour, so you can get from the inner harbour and downtown Vancouver all the way out to the airport. And so it'll be, I think, a significant new transportation connection for Nanaimo, hopefully when it launches.
Earlier in the show, you touched on the Tourism Leadership Committee and the tourism strategy that was rolled out late February. We're about 4.5 months in. Let's just update our viewers in terms of what has happened in that regard. More of a regional approach to tourism, 5 main goals as part of that package. So where does that stand right now, Sasha?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of early wins. And so we've got the Nanaimo Bar Trail, which it's been remarkable. The number of tourists that we see coming into town saying, I want to have an authentic Nanaimo bar in Nanaimo. We've run a campaign in the Pacific Northwest saying, you won't be sorry.com. And we've seen significant traffic. We were expecting about 5,000 entrants into the contest that ran in Seattle, Portland, and throughout the Pacific Northwest. We're bridging on 9,000 right now. So the feedback has been fantastic. We've also got a new trail that we've developed with the Cedar Yellow Point Artisans to be able to have local sort of circle tours and have folks from our community be able to see what's in their local community as well as our visitors to Nanaimo. So that launched a couple weeks ago. And we've been working hard at a new tourism development fund, which will be able to basically provide opportunities for more overnight stays for our hotels and for more people to visit and come and stay. And so some of our events, if we can add extra days to that, that will be part of the focus, as well as how do we incent and how do we provide opportunities for new tourism experiences. And so that's all stuff that we look at launching hopefully in the near future, and something that we think is going to be a great asset for Nanaimo going forward.
Now, new tourism experiences, is this all driven by the private sector, or is this something that that NedCorp is looking to foster within current festivals that are already going on to increase some experiences locally, Sasha?
And I think there's some opportunities that if the Dragon Boat Festival, for example, wanted to add an extra day and have more people stay that extra day, that would be something that we'd take a look at. If there's an opportunity with the Blues Festival for them to add additional days or programming, that was something that we'd obviously want to consider. There are other opportunities that are more larger in scale and maybe more long-term in nature. Newcastle Island is a wonderful opportunity, I think an asset that we need to look at how we can help foster. And so there's a number of opportunities, both from a festival and events perspective, as well as new opportunities and new experiences that will help drive more visitations to the community.
Sasha, thanks for coming on the program. A lot going on and a lot coming up ahead in the future. Thanks for breaking it all down for our viewers. Really appreciate that.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
That's Sasha Angus, the CEO of the Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation, with a nice breakdown of what's going on economically here in Nanaimo. Some good news to report. There's some challenges, but there's also a lot of things coming up down the pipe here in the future that we'll continue to track. Thanks so much for tuning in for another edition of Head On Shaw TV. I'm your host, Ian Holmes. Tune in for another exciting edition here on Shaw.